Hey guys, I'm Alfred from Porter Spot and welcome to week 20 of the 2018-2019 Premier League review. If you're on this series, what we do is take a look at past set Premier results, we take a look at the Premier League table and we finish off by looking at the top goal scorers. So here are the past set of Premier League results. These games were played on Saturday the 29th and Sunday the 30th of December 2018. Also next games are their times in this video, so if you want to hear about a specific match, just go to time next game and you'll skip out all the other crap, but without further ado, let's get into our first match. We start with Liverpool versus Arsenal. Arsenal took the lead on the 10-minute mark as Ainsley Maitland-Niles got his first goal for the Gunners. Liverpool gave the ball away in the middle and Alex Iwobi drove into a pocket of space. He curled the ball in the box that bounced away from Alisson and Van Dijk, and there waiting for it in a ton of space was Maitland-Niles, who slid in and tapped home, but the celebration was a noncy one, so doesn't count. But the lead wouldn't last long as only 3 minutes later Liverpool levelled it up as Bobby Firmino got the goal. He actually started the move as he slipped it forward to Mo Salah. Arsenal looked to tackle it, but instead it turns into a game of pinball as Stefan Lichtsteiner kicks it off of Shkodran Mustafi and it falls to Bobby Firmino, who had an empty net, and just for good measure he made it a no-look goal as well. And a minute later Liverpool took the lead as Bobby Firmino got his second of the night. No pinball this time as Bobby picks up the ball in the Arsenal half and dribbles past them all. He sits down Mustafi, sits down Socrates before wrong-footing Leno and slot him into the bottom right. And Liverpool doubled their lead on the 32nd minute as Sadio Mane got on the score sheet. Lovely goal as the corner was taken by Liverpool, but Pierre Aubameyang clears it at the front post. Andy Robertson picks it up in his own half and plays a long diagonal ball forward that catches the Arsenal defence out as Mo Salah peeled off at the back. He laid it across goal first time to Sadio Mane, who put it home from a few yards out. And Liverpool get the perfect chance to go ahead by 3 just before half time as they were given a penalty. Mo Salah finds himself in space on the byline and Socrates comes in. He has 2 swipes at the heels of Salah and the ref points to the spot. Salah also stepped up to take it and he doesn't go for placement, he just powers it anywhere and it goes in despite it hitting Leno's elbow. And Liverpool get another penalty in the 65th minute. This time a ball was floated in and it's going over Lovren and Lichtsteiner will be able to deal with it, but Sead Kolasinac just bundles Lovren over from behind and the ref pointed to the spot for the second time. Bobby Firmino stepped up to take this one and he put it away in the right corner of the net to complete his hat-trick. And that's how the game ended. When Liverpool went behind, it was the first time they had done so at home in 2018, but that didn't do much for Arsenal. And instead, they just poked the bear as Liverpool just swam forward and took the lead in the blink of an eye. Arsenal had good spells, to be fair, in the first half and posed a genuine threat to Liverpool at times, but were let down by some comical defending for the first, second and third goal. In the second half, they did have a lot more of the ball, but they were slowing the game down and holding it up instead of pushing forward, which was a bit strange. The defence was vulnerable and Liverpool exposed that as Arsenal became the first team to concede 4 first half goals at Anfield since 2014, and that was Arsenal as well, so they don't like coming to Anfield anymore. And we move on to Southampton versus Manchester City. Man City took the lead in the 10th minute as David Silva got the opener just as Southampton wasted a golden chance at one end as Charlie Austin's heavy touch takes the chance away. Man City break up the other end and Bernardo Silva has the ball on the near side and takes it to the byline. He looks up and pulls it back towards the penalty spot for the other Silva as David Silva hit it first time into the left hand side of the net. But like all Man City games recently, the lead wouldn't last long as Southampton levelled it up through Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Alexander Zinchenko loses the ball deep inside his own after Emile Højbjerg and he makes his way into the area before smashing a shot high into the net past Ederson. But Man City would retake the lead just as the clock went into the 45th minute and it was James Ward-Prowse who put the ball into his own net. Raheem Sterling has the ball in the box and he's looking for a pullback just like City's first goal, but instead his pullback deflects off of Ward-Prowse and McCarthy can't react quick enough as it goes past him at the near post. And City got a 2-goal lead with the last kick of the half as Sergio Aguero made it 3-1. Alexander Zinchenko made up for his mistake as he floated a ball into the Southampton area and no one is marking Aguero as he ghosted between 2 Southampton defenders and headed down and it bounced over the line. And things would go from bad to worse for Southampton as they were forced to play the final few minutes with 10 men. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, after scoring the Southampton goal, is now sent off for a horrible tackle on Fernandinho. He's just come back from injury and Højbjerg's actually just come back from suspension. Scissor motion challenge, no attempt to play the ball, and it's a straight red. And that's how the game ended. City started the match 10 points behind Liverpool, and when Southampton equalised, I'm sure we all thought that it was going to happen again and City were going to lose. But the free-flowing attack of Man City got the better of Southampton and they rode out quite comfortable winners in the end. They peppered the Southampton goal from the get-go and 2 quick goals before half-time was enough to see off Southampton as Man City moved back up to second, but still 7 points off the league leaders before their match on Thursday. And we move on to Manchester United versus Bournemouth. It took only 4 minutes for one of these teams to open the scoring and it was Paul Pogba who continued his fine form since new management. Sensational run from Rashford who goes around 3 Bournemouth players, taking 2 of them out with a little flip-flap before squaring it to Pogba who stretches out one of his long legs and pokes home from close range. And United doubled their lead just after the half-hour mark as Paul Pogba got his and United's second of the game. Lovely ball in as Ashley Young pulls the ball back to Ander Herrera and he whips the ball in first time. The keeper's coming for it at the front post, but Pogba's brave, towers over him and everyone else and heads home. And United got their third just before half-time as Marcus Rashford added his name to the score sheet. Lovely ball forward by Nemanja Matic to find Anthony Martial, who timed his run perfectly. He then dinked the ball in that was probably in for Pogba, but it's too high for him and it goes over him and drops at the back post for a sliding Rashford to prod home. But Bournemouth were going to go back just before half-time as Nathan Ake got on the score sheet. Still no clean sheet for United under Solskjaer, and a corner was taken short to David Brooks. It's a lovely dink ball into the middle, and there on the 6-yard line was Ake, who headed home. But United would get their 3-goal lead back as Romelu Lukaku scored with one of his first touches. A lovely ball over the top by Pogba to a clearly offside Lukaku. The linesman doesn't flag it, and Lukaku is able to wait for it to drop and put it into the bottom left. But United would have to play the final 10 minutes of the game with 10 men as Eric Bailly was given his marching orders. He should have been sent off earlier after legit kung fu kicking Charlie Daniels in the chest. I'm not making that up, by the way, he legitimately did that. He's late and out of control on Ryan Fraser, and the ref had no choice to show him a straight red. And that's how the game ended, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer becoming only the third Man United boss to win their first 3 league games, something that only Jose Mourinho and the great Matt Busby were able to do. Pogba, again, I feel myself saying this every match now, he looks a completely different player. He's not shackled to a role that he clearly doesn't suit and is given the freedom of pretty much the entire pitch to work his magic, and he did it again today, pulling the strings in the middle and popping up with a couple of goals. The defence is still quite shaky at times. They've still only kept 2 clean sheets all season, the joint worst in the league along with Fulham, as Man United picked up 3 consecutive wins for the first time all season. And we move on to Tottenham versus Wolves. Tottenham got the first goal of the weekend as they took the lead in the 22nd minute through Harry Kane. Not a bad way to top the year for Harry Kane as the new NBA holder picked up the ball about 25 yards out from goal. He cut inside, hit it with his supposed weaker foot that flew into the far corner of the net. But Wolves levelled the game up in the 72nd minute as Willy Bolly got the equaliser. It had been coming, to be fair to Wolves, as João Moutinho's corner is spot on. Willy Bolly gets up and diverts a header towards goal and past Hugo Lloris. And Wolves complete the comeback in the 84th minute as they took the lead as Raul Jimenez got the goal. Really poor defending from Tottenham as no one bothers to put a tackle in on the edge of the area, and Raul Jimenez's slightly weak effort goes through a defender's legs and trickled into the bottom left. And Wolves wrapped the game up in the 87th minute as Elder Costa doubled the lead. A lovely counter-attack from the visitors. Wolves' wide players just a sprint off as Ruben Neves turns, gives it to Jimenez, and he slips the ball through to Helder Costa. Costa ends up one-on-one with the keeper and he opened his body and curled an effort into the bottom left corner. And that's how the game ended. Tottenham have bottled the title challenge 3 days after making one. The first half Tottenham bossed it. They could have and probably should have had more, but in the second 45 their heads seemed to drop despite being ahead, and maybe the fatigue of the demanding festive period got up to them. But then again, am I disappointed? No, that's what the transfer window is for, to sign new players for when your players are tired, like this, and like pretty much what most other team in the league did. Tottenham didn't have a single shot on goal in the second half, as a flat second half for them allowed Wolves to complete the turnaround and pick up the win at Wembley. And we move on to Burnley versus West Ham. Burnley took the lead on the 15-minute mark as Chris Wood got the goal. A long ball was punted forward to the box. Ashley Barnes wins a header on the edge of the area and heads it down for Chris Wood. The big Kiwi striker takes a touch and catches it on the half volley and finishes past the keeper at the near post. And Burnley double their lead 20 minutes later as youngster Dwight McNeil got his first goal for Burnley. A poor clearance from West Ham goes to Ashley Westwood, who curls a lovely ball back into the area that goes over the West Ham defenders, and they're running onto it at the back post was McNeil, who volleyed into the net. And that's how the game ended, with Burnley picking up a massive win at the bottom of the table. It's crazy what happens when you drop Joe Hart. Tom Heaton made his first start since last September, and he made some excellent saves to prove why he was a massive player for Burnley before his injury. The home side repeatedly carved through the West Ham side, and it was a disappointing display for the Irons, who were sluggish throughout the entire game, with their best chance coming extremely late on when it was already too late. The only positive for West Ham is that it wasn't more, as Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes both wasted chances to make it more, as Burnley moved level on points with Southampton and are teetering just inside the bottom 3 on goal difference. And we move on to Leicester versus Cardiff. The first action of this match was in the 73rd minute as Leicester were awarded a penalty. James Maddison made his way into the area and was brought down, and the ref pointed to the spot. James Maddison also stepped up to take it. He put it down the middle. Etheridge does well to get down and make the save. The rebound comes straight back to Maddison, and he must have thought it was a certain goal, but in comes Sol Bamba to make an unbelievable tackle to keep it goalless. And Cardiff would make Leicester pay for the missed spot kick as they won the game in the 92nd minute thanks to a Victor Camarasa screamer. He picked the ball up about 30 yards out from goal, curls one towards the goal that dips just before the crossbar, and it flew into the top right corner to give Cardiff their first away win of the season. And that's how the game ended. Leicester had a lot of the ball but never really looked like scoring despite the 16 shots they had. They kept the ball in the middle a lot without ever really showing the urgency or the intent to get behind the Cardiff back line. The one time they did, that wasn't the penalty. Vardy spurned the chance and Maddison looked poised to get the goal, but another penalty save from Neil Etheridge and an absolute world-class tackle from Bamba snuffed the chance. A fantastic goal from Camarasa though sealed the win and a second consecutive clean sheet for Cardiff. And we move on to Fulham versus Huddersfield. Not much happened in this game, and it would take until the 80th minute to get something we're talking about, and it was a penalty to Fulham. Chris Law handles it in the area, and the ref pointing to the spot. Abubakar Kamara stepped up to take it, but his effort is saved by Jonas Lossell, and the game continued goalless. And it looked like the game was going to end 0-0, but just as the clock struck 90 minutes, Fulham took the lead through Aleksandar Mitrovic. Huddersfield committed too many men forward and were caught out as Ryan Sessegnon charged forward and teed it off of Mitrovic, who slid it underneath Lossell and into the net. And as the game ended, it could have been a very different day if Mitrovic hadn't saved Fulham, as he should have took the penalty, and everyone is furious with Abubakar Kamara, including his manager. The Fulham dressing room was seconds away from being a cold place, but Mitrovic stepped up and scored his first goal since Ranieri's first game in charge. Huddersfield though capped off a horrible December that has seen them go bottom with 7 straight defeats for the Terriers. And we move on to Watford versus Newcastle. Newcastle took the lead on the half-hour mark as Salomon Rondon put the visitors in front. Lovely ball in from Matt Ritchie on the left-hand side, and it's just a goal that you'd expect Rondon to score, as he overpowered everybody, rose up highest, and powered his header past Ben Foster for his 5th league goal of the season. But Watford levelled it up in the 82nd minute as Abdoulaye Doucouré secured the draw for Watford. Another lovely cross this time by Gerard Deulofeu, and Doucouré loses his marker, and as easy as you like, he gets up and heads it into the net. And as the game ended, Watford made 6 changes to the lineup and left a lot of their normal starting 11 out, and it looked like it would cost them, as after Newcastle took the lead, they packed the area in front of the defensive back line and left Rondon by himself, making it pretty much impossible for the home side to find a way through. When they did though, they were met by Dubravka, who made some good saves but eventually found the net in the dying moment of the game. Rondon turned out a performance that the past number 9s of Newcastle would be proud of, as he held the ball up well, bringing others into play and got a headed goal of the highest standards. What's happened to Watford though? They had 12 points from their first 4 games. That was a perfect start. 12 from 4, then in the next 16 games, they've managed 16 points, which probably in any other season would have been fine and probably is fine. But for the start they had, I can't imagine the Watford fans will be wondering what's gone wrong. And we move on to Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. It would take until the 50th minute for one of these teams to make the breakthrough, and it was a well-deserved goal for Chelsea. Lovely ball forward by David Luiz to spot the curling run of N'Golo Kante into the box. The Frenchman chests it down and it hits a low shot that the keeper gets a hand to, but it's a very difficult one to stop as it trickled into the net. And as the game ended with Kante's goal putting 3 more points between Chelsea and Arsenal as they moved 5 points clear of their London neighbours in 5th. There were very few clear-cut chances as Chelsea dominated possession as Palace looked to sit back and break on the counter-attack, a strategy that failed miserably as they didn't register a shot on target until the 85th minute. It was an unremarkable but professional display from Chelsea, who picked up the win without ever having to break a sweat against a lacklustre Palace front line. And finally, we've got Brighton versus Everton. Brighton took the lead in the 60th minute, and after a lot of confusion, Jurgen Locadia was given the goal. Pascal Gross's corner goes all the way to the back post following a flick on into the feet of Locadia, who lashed it home. It wasn't going to be given as Locadia looked a mile offside, and he was, to be fair, but the flick on clearly came off of Andre Gomez in an Everton shirt, and after the ref went over and had a word with the linesman, it was given, and it was a fantastic spot as well. And as the game ended with Everton crashing back down to earth after their big win last time out. Brighton were hanging on in the closing stages of the match, but their resiliency at the back was superb, with the pairing of Lewis Dunk and Shane Duffy, and a great performance from standing goalkeeper David Button as well. Dunk with a captain's performance, pointing his team everywhere, making sure they kept their heads, whilst Duffy was a clearing machine. He made more than double the amount of clearances that anyone else on the pitch. Button was probably the most impressive for me though, as twice he superbly denied Richarlison that could have turned the contest on its head. Brighton are well placed to survive in the league again as they are 13th, 11 points above the drop zone, and find themselves in a better position than they were in this time last year. Right, so that's all the games we got for this time. Before we go, let's take a look at the Premier League table and top goal scorers, starting off with the Premier League table. Starting with top 5, and as you can see, Liverpool are top after a big win against Arsenal. Man City second after beating Southampton. Tottenham dropped to third after losing to Wolves. Chelsea are fourth and pulled away from Arsenal after a win against Crystal Palace, and Arsenal make up the top 5 after being on the wrong end of a result at Anfield. Moving on to the bottom 5, and Huddersfield are on the bottom after losing to Fulham. The other team in that fixture are 19th. Burnley are 18th after beating West Ham. Southampton are 17th after losing to Man City. And Cardiff make up the bottom 5 after a late win against Leicester. Moving on to the top goal scorers, and as you can see, Mo Salah is now back on the top after his goal against Arsenal took him to 13 goals and 7 assists. We've got people joint for second. Pierre Aubameyang didn't score, but Harry Kane did in his team's loss to Wolves. They're both on 13 goals and 3 assists. Eden Hazard wasn't able to get on the score sheet this week. He stayed on 10 goals and 9 assists. And Raheem Sterling make up the top 5, and I'm actually not sure whether he was given the assist for the own goal. I'm not sure if they work like that, but they should do. But anyway, he's on 9 goals and 6 assists. Right, so that's all good for this time. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be back on Friday for the next episode of the Premier League review. Yes, another midweek episode and the last episode of the Christmas period, and we've got a cracker game for next one as Man City take on Liverpool. So hopefully next time I come to you, it'll be good news. If you want to stay up to date about anything we do, it would be best to follow us on Twitter. The link is in the description, or it's at portionofsport_. If you missed the last episode, that'll be on the right hand side of your outro screen, and the link to the channel will be on the left if you feel like subscribing. But anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. I will see you next year. I've been Mark from A Portion of Sport, and I will see you soon. My mama calls, see you on TV. Sunset shit done changed ever since we was on our